What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, we'll be looking at the wild world of pattern prints. Honestly, there are a ton of different options to pick from, especially when it comes to prints that are based on nature. So on today's episode, I'll be running you through exactly how to identify each of these pattern prints. So whether you're out next time and you're shopping for a new shirt or having a discussion with a fashionable acquaintance, you'll be able to look and feel like a pro and make the right decision in terms of which pattern print is going to be the correct option for you. When it comes to nature patterns, there are going to be two key categories that you'll want to explore and look into. On the one hand, you have the pattern prints that are going to be based on plants or floral elements. And on the other hand, we're going to have the pattern prints that are based on animal skins. Each of these two kind of larger categories is going to have subcategories and is going to have its own place in its own specific use case scenario. Getting right into it, we'll start off with the pattern prints based on plant elements. The first one is going to be the Paisley pattern print. You'll immediately recognize this when you see it, but you may not have known the name in the past. This type of pattern print is usually characterized by a sort of teardrop shaped motif, typically based on leaves or other floral elements that are consisting of different decorative elements. And usually we see this type of pattern print in monochromatic colors. So it'll be like black and white. You won't get too much color in a paisley print. So that is definitely something to bear in mind. Next up, we have our vintage floral pattern print. We call this vintage because it harkens back to the days of like the 1950s, the 1960s. You would typically see this type of pattern print used on your dinner tablecloth. The types of elements that are in this pattern print are these extremely Renaissance, like they almost look like oil painting, floral elements, usually on a brightly colored background. So this type of pattern print is extremely popular, it's timeless, it's one that can be used in a variety of situations, and it's one that sort of gives you this nostalgic feeling. Next up, we have our Calico floral pattern print. This type of pattern print is usually extremely dense and is based on bright colored, small scale floral elements that are congregated together. And usually this type of pattern print is associated with the American country style fabrics. This is usually because we see this type of pattern print often used in those scenarios, in those contexts, in both TV shows and movies. Moving on, we have the ditzy pattern print. This one is quite similar to the Calico pattern print, but I would consider it a less dense version. It's usually formed with small random prints that can consist of either dots or other floral elements. And like I said, it's quite similar to the Calico, but is a little bit more spread out and does match in scale when it comes to the individual ornaments that make up the pattern print. Moving on, we have our scroll pattern print. This one is typically quite geometric in its approach. It's usually based on a solid color background with a solid color foreground. When it comes to the foreground elements, these are going to usually be things like spiral and curved vines that actually form the pattern. And usually we see these elements put on a larger scale on a scroll pattern print. Last in this category is going to be the tropical pattern print. This one is instantly recognizable and is immediately the one you think of when you think of a Tommy Bahama style shirt or like a Hawaiian style button down shirt. And usually this type of pattern is consisting of banana leaves or palm leaves with other floral elements sprinkled in on a variety of different colored backgrounds that can be quite vibrant and quite punchy. Now that we've covered the pattern prints based on plants, we'll look into the next category, which is those based on animal skins. This category is a lot of fun and it's a timeless category, one that we consistently see being repeated throughout fashion history. And there's really good reason for that. Animal prints do never go out of fashion, and they are ones that consistently come back regardless of what decade we're in. The first one we're going to be discussing on today's episode is that of the cheetah skin. This one is instantly recognizable. It's usually based on solid black spots that are slightly irregular on a yellow brown background, and again is meant to imitate a traditional or a natural cheetah skin. Next up, we have the zebra pattern print. This type of print is based on these irregular continuous black lines on a white background, and again the intent here is to emulate and to kind of recreate a natural zebra skin. And now we move on to the giraffe pattern print. This one is, again, instantly iconic and it's quite unique because of its proportions and the geometries used. It's going to be these large, tightly positioned brown patches that are going to be on a light yellow to brown background. And again, it's not a very common type of pattern print, but it is one that get you immediate attention. It's quite loud and it's quite bold, so that is a plus or a negative depending on who's wearing it and what your personal preference is going to be. Moving on, we have the leopard skin. This is going to be characterized with a horseshoe shaped black kind of element, usually with a hazy envelope or a hazy edge with a dark brown spot in the middle, always on a brown to light yellow colored background. Again, this is with the intent to imitate a natural leopard skin. And last on this category is going to be the tiger pattern print. This is always on a dark or light orange background, depending on how much vibrancy you want to bring, and features black irregular lines, again, all imitating a natural tiger skin. Well, that is a wrap on this episode, guys. By now, you should have a much better overview of key types of plant prints that we see and the key types of animal prints that we see. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel like you've learned a thing or two, you're enjoying this pattern print series, let us know in the comments below. Let me know which is going to be your personal favorite pattern print. Honestly, I'm a lot more impartial towards the plant pattern prints. I think they can be pulled off, especially more on men's items. Some of the animal pattern prints have their space, but in my personal opinion, they can be a little bit too bold and flashy. Also, it depends on the garments that you're using them on, so that's definitely something to bear in mind. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider smashing a massive thumbs up. It really does help us out. And also consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. We put out great content on a week-to-week basis and haven't missed a beat in over 2 years, so you definitely won't regret it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next episode, stay awesome.